Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today for the BYOD sneak peek in anticipation of the ESI Roundtable second annual hands-on training workshop, which is scheduled to take place next Thursday, August 28th in Birmingham, Alabama. My name is Melissa Rogozinski, and I am the president of the ESI Roundtable and your host today. We want to welcome and thank Carrie Fowler, Assistant General Counsel and Senior VP at Regions Bank, for joining us, as well as Katie Townsend, Account Executive at Nextpoint. Carrie's going to talk to us a little bit about what we can expect from her presentation on BYOD policies, procedures, liabilities, and things to consider. And then Katie's going to talk to us a little bit about Nextpoint technology, but more importantly, how to use that electronic evidence in trial presentations, depositions, and functions in which you utilize this after the discovery process. So like that, we're going to go ahead and hand this over to Carrie and get started.
Thank you so much, Melissa, and thanks for having me. Welcome everyone who's on the phone, and looking forward to meeting you next week during the event. Wanted to talk to you today about BYOD. For those of you who don't know what it is, that's Bring Your Own Device, also known as Bring Your Own Technology, Bring Your Own Phone, Bring Your Own PC, depends on where you are and what the language is. But wanted to go over some drivers first for sort of why we're going towards BYOD in various corporations. The big one for the driver is technology expense reduction. As you can imagine, moving the responsibility to the employee for technology is a huge cost save for every corporation that's going down this road. And also employees tend to expect a little bit better use of their technology. They don't like multiple devices, and they want to be able to choose which devices and or computers that they're able to use for work purposes. And finally, what we're seeing is more productivity out of employees when they have constant ready access to their devices. As you can see from the chart, this is a current adoption in U.S. companies for BYOD. For tablets, we're at around 54 to 55%. Smartphones are at around 33%, and for desktop computers, about 14% of companies allow casual use of a secondary personal PC. And one prediction out there right now is that 55% of all U.S. companies will phase out corporate-owned technology and will require BYOD by 2017. So this is obviously the sort of way of the future and where we're all going. For the next slide, for BYOD reimbursement, this is a real hot topic in this area right now. Companies are trying to decide whether to reimburse employees for their devices, and if so, how much. We have a brand new case hot off the presses from last week out of California, Cochran versus Schwann's Home Service, Inc., requiring companies to reimburse employees for their own personal devices. The decision is not exactly clear on exactly what's required for the reimbursement, and it can be interpreted in various different ways. But generally, on average, for a smartphone, companies are subsidizing employees about $45 per month per device. And as you can imagine, that's still a huge cost saving versus the corporate liable devices when the corporation is paying the entire monthly charges. And then also, over and above the subsidies, a company can expect an average additional overhead cost of $100 per year per device. So for the next slide, wanted to go through one case study. This is an IBM case study in which they engaged a research company last year to perform a financial analysis on one of their customers' BYOD program. And you can see the assumptions here, moving from year one at 9,000 devices to year three at 12,500 devices. So, medium to large size regional company most likely. And you can see the huge benefit from moving from the corporate liable device over to the employee-owned devices there. And now for risk considerations. As the lawyers in the room, this is what we worry about with BYOD. It sounds great, and it's obviously the way of the future and the way we're all going, but we also have to be mindful of the legal risks and issues associated with BYOD. Primarily what we're looking at here is HR issues and security concerns. For HR issues, we are most concerned about employees' expectations of privacy for their personal data. They obviously expect their personal data not to be accessible to their employer in most instances. And then also for termination of employment, what happens, for instance, with ownership of the telephone number? We all have to think about that, and it's often an afterthought. But as you can imagine, in sales positions particularly, a salesperson could legitimately take all of their clients to the competition when he or she leaves the company. And finally, looking at termination, what you have to consider removal of the corporate data from the device upon termination. For security concerns, primarily what we're worried about here is physical security, so lost and stolen devices, and then also use of the device by non-employees, so allowing your child to use your device for playing games and bumping up into the corporate email, for instance. Mobile data security, again, how to protect that corporate data on the personal device. And then mobile application security. As you can imagine, with a personally owned device, anyone can download any app that they want, and so it would be very easy to introduce malware into the corporate network. For the next slide, this is just a list of BYOD technology providers. In a nutshell, these providers provide applications that are put on each personally owned device that sort of containerize corporate data and provide separation between the corporate and personal data. And during the presentation next week, I'll go over some more detail about how these apps actually work. For BYOD policy considerations, you want to really dive into acceptable use, so acceptable use for business versus personal use on company time. Which websites do you want to block during work hours, if any? Do you want your employees to utilize the camera and video capabilities during work hours or on company property? And do you want to specify whether or not the device may be used at any time for certain kinds of activities? You want to consider any apps that should be allowed or disallowed on the device, and define sort of acceptable use for the company-owned resources, such as email, calendars, contacts, documents, etc. And then you also want to think about texting, particularly texting while driving. We want to be very careful with that and provide a zero-tolerance policy for texting while driving for obvious reasons. More policy considerations, you want to provide a list of supported devices and also provide for how many devices will be allowed per employee. You want to allow or give some guidance on IT support, so when the employee should contact corporate IT versus their own device manufacturer or their own wireless carrier. And then also for reimbursement, you want to outline, and from a corporate strategy perspective, sort of whether you want to reimburse, and if so, how you want that reimbursement structure to be set up. For security policy considerations, we'll go over this in great detail during the presentation next week, but really just want to look at these kinds of security considerations and make some specific definitions. And a lot of the apps that provide the security will define these characteristics for you, so you don't have to worry about it. And finally, for risks and liabilities and disclaimers, the big one here, well, there's two big ones, I would say. The first one, wiping and protecting personal data. You want to provide a sort of a disclaimer that in the event that IT has to wipe a device remotely, every precaution will be taken to protect the personal data on the device. However, you want your employees to understand that they have responsibility to take their own precautions with their own personal data, so they want to be backing up their email and contacts, whether to the cloud or onto another device. And finally, want to also highlight the e-discovery procedures. So it would be in a remote instance that we would need to capture the device itself to do e-discovery on it, because generally the data that we're looking for as a corporation is housed on the corporate network also. But you want to provide a disclaimer in your policy that allows you to temporarily borrow or confiscate the device if discovery is needed. And I think that's about it. So I will turn it over to Katie.
Can everyone hear me?
Yep, you got it's all you, Katie. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, it's a great segue. Thanks, Carrie. We're going to talk a little bit about e-discovery and how we can manage data for you in the cloud, essentially through our Nextpoint application here. So I'm Katie Townsend. Thanks, Melissa, for the introduction. And to echo Carrie's sentiments, we're really excited to be part of the ESI Roundtable event again this year, and a big thanks for having me today as well. I look forward to meeting those of you that plan to attend. We're, as you probably know, hosting one of the hands-on sessions or all of the hands-on sessions. But if you're not familiar with Nextpoint, we are really a litigation software company that assists in management of electronic data, really from collections through the resolution of a case or matter. As we'll dive into next Thursday, there are many different ways in which you can engage with us, regardless of where your matter resides in the litigation life cycle. We're big proponents for keeping data in one platform, really from e-discovery or complaint through resolution, as it's the most cost-efficient approach for managing that data, and more importantly, it eliminates the need to kind of import and export documents from one tool to another as your case progresses. So as you'll learn next Thursday, we'll kind of talk about how data flows through that process in our tools. So I realize we have limited time today, so I want to focus on some of the highlights as to where we can potentially assist, and also give you a sneak peek into the topics where we plan to focus most specifically next week. But as you know, as an attorney, when you have gigabytes or even terabytes of data staring down at you, you need tools to really help you cull that data, assess what you actually have, and then that in turn helps you educate your client so that they can make informed decisions about how to proceed with a particular matter or case. So on this screen, you can see some of the analytical tools that we have built into Nextpoint. We call it our ECA application, Early Case Assessment, which we can utilize to help our clients filter down large data sets and really pinpoint relevant documents before you even start thinking about processing that data. So, for example, you can cull a collected large data set through the process of denisting or deduplication, keyword searches, custodian and date range restrictions, among other approaches, obviously, to eliminate unnecessary data that you may not want to review. We also offer advanced machine learning, or as some people are familiar, it's also called predictive coding, to help you find more responsive documents across huge data sets before you'd actually move everything into the review topic. So while we're on topic of collections, just as an FYI, Nextpoint can also assist in collecting webmail or even website or social media data that may be relevant to your case. If any of you were attendees at last year's hands-on event, that's actually where we focused our time for that. But as you probably have learned, we're experienced in handling really the forensic capture of that kind of data, and can deliver it directly to you in the review application for immediate tagging or coding or whatever you may need.
I want to add to that, too, for our attendees, that
Sure.
There are very few service providers out there who are capable of capturing social media and website information in real time, and that Nextpoint is one of less than a handful of companies that are able to do that. So definitely take a moment. The Roundtable is vendor agnostic, but we do encourage you to take a little closer look at that, because, like I said, there's very few that are capable of doing that with social media.
Thanks, Melissa. And as you'll see on the next slide, once you have everything collected, whether it's utilizing us for assisting in collection of website or social media data, or other data that you're getting from your client directly, we've got the review application that helps you manage native file processing, document review, as well as document production. So once all of your documents have been uploaded and processed, you'll have all of the custom redaction, labeling, tagging, and coding fields that you need to quickly identify, responsive, privileged documents, confidential documents, etc. So you go to the next slide, Melissa. The way that we organize documents within the review tool are based on folders, which you can then assign different documents to folders. We'll go into this in a little bit more detail next week, and actually do this workflow in the hands-on session, where we will move certain documents to particular folders and show you how easy that can be, as well as how easy it is to assign different reviewers to those particular folders to help you really manage either a large scale or even a smaller review. So as you can see on the screen, we also have progress reports within the review tool that will give you insight into how things are progressing towards completion. So once everything's been uploaded and processed, you'll be able to kind of, like I mentioned before, identify, and tag and code all of your specific documents accordingly. We also have at the very bottom, you can see a dynamic and built-in privilege log generation tool that enables you to quickly export your most up-to-date privilege log. Because Nextpoint is a fully cloud-based or web-enabled tool, you are able to work in real time with other folks that are utilizing the tool for review. So getting an updated privilege log is basically as easy as a click of a button. So again, we'll dive into this a little bit more hands-on next week, as well as take a closer look at what process documents look like, specifically how metadata and email threading are maintained in family chains, so you have a better sense for how that works in the review tool. After your review is complete and you want to produce data, Nextpoint offers bait stamping capabilities, which again we'll talk about next week, and also various production to various formats with no additional export or TIFF charges. We also have, if you want to avoid really the hassle of exporting documents and sending off a hard drive, more along the lines of a more standard production, you can actually perform a wire transfer utilizing our Privilege Protect tool, which based on this graphic here that you see on your screen, it's just a way that you can securely transfer your production set to opposing counsel, and it builds in some protections to make sure that you keep privileged documents from accidentally being produced. Where we'll focus quite significantly next week is on our preparation tool. So once you've produced and are really ready to start paring down your key documents, or you want to review deposition testimony, the Nextpoint preparation tool, it's a comprehensive application where, as you see on your screen, you can manage more than just documents in a review. We throw in functionality around depositions, managing your trial transcripts, as well as creative work product. So although you may still be in the middle of a review when this type of functionality becomes a need, the review and preparation tools are actually built on the same platform. So we allow you to kind of share documents between both as needed. You can also upload your opposing counsel production sets into the Prepare application for additional coding or issue tagging, et cetera. So the organizational approach in this tool is primarily by issues, which will help you to put different documents in buckets for review by experts, co-counsel, or creation of potentially witness binders, and also to begin identifying and marking your trial exhibits. So as you see on the screen here, you can even add virtual exhibit stamps to avoid having to apply physical stickers, which is always a complaint that we hear from a lot of our clients. This is actually another hands-on exercise we'll complete together next week, as again, this is a really great workflow that a lot of people enjoy doing electronically as opposed to the more traditional print and sticking of an actual sticker on a document. So our preparation tool also has an integrated document presentation and annotation feature that we call Theater. So you can create with this tool different callouts, highlights. You can underline certain portions of text as you see there on the screen. You can pop these treatments directly into a presentation just by clicking D to download, or you can save them to a particular witness issue and then generate PDF reports to include in your witness binders. Again, this is a task that can be done on any device. So if you're coming with an iPad or tablet next week, you can see how easy this is to manage really on the go. And lastly, the Prepare tool also enables you to work more specifically with your deposition transcripts kind of all in one spot along with your documents. So we allow you to create designations with streaming video playback, assuming you have associated video footage with your deposition. And a few simple clicks literally help you create a new designation, and then you're able to generate a number of different reports to use for exchange, which we will focus on next week as well. If you click one more, Melissa, you can see here that you're able to link exhibits or important documents within the text of the deposition transcript for quick recall when you're just reviewing this. A lot of our attorneys like this functionality, especially on their own devices, not to harp on BYOD, but on the iPad, this is a really nice way to just recall documents on the fly, and again, something we'll perform in the tool next week. So in closing, our tools are fully integrated. It just means you can load, initial case data into Nextpoint and utilize it throughout the litigation lifecycle. Again, we'll focus on how that data flows through our tools and, get into some of the more specific features and functionality. But we work with, clients of all shapes and sizes, and looking forward to meeting all of you and learning a little bit more about your challenges. So with that, I will pass it back to Melissa. I think she's got some information on start times and schedule for next week. Melissa, are you there? Carrie, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes. Melissa, are you there?
Just want to make sure it wasn't me.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
we can hear you now.
Okay. So again, I kind of wanted to thank everybody for joining us, and I want to add a few things to what Katie and Carrie said. You know, again, the roundtable is designed for our audience. You know, the topics we choose are what you have told us you want to hear about. When you attend events or you email or fill out surveys and call us interest cards for us, these topics like data security and privacy, the BYOD, authentication, which we're honored to have Judge David Wax be here with us next week, and budget planning. These are the topics that you, our audience, told us you wanted to learn about. We try to deliver practical information that teaches you how to practice law on a daily basis. The breakout sessions are really key because we're very careful about making sure that the providers we work with do not deliver a sales pitch or simply a demo. This is a real, true opportunity, unlike anything else you've experienced, to actually log in and test drive the technology like you would test drive a car before you buy it. So, you know, I encourage you to take a look at this. As of yesterday, we are able to offer attendance to the hands-on event via WebEx. It will be live, and if you register by Monday at 5 o'clock Central, then we will be able to ensure you get login credentials from each provider, and you will be able to test drive the technology during each breakout session live with us. So with that, we actually have about 10 minutes left, and I'm going to open it up. I'm going to unmute everyone. If anybody has some questions, we can take a couple questions here over the next 5 or 6 minutes. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and jump right in and let us know what we can do.
Melissa, this is Carrie. This is Carrie. While we're waiting for questions, I did want to add for the presentation next week, everyone can expect to receive a template for policies and procedures related to BYOD.
Oh, thank you very much. That's really hot. Well, if anybody has any questions, feel free to email either me or Terry Sargent, our Business Development Manager, and we'll be happy to address those issues, make introductions if you need to follow up with one of our presenters or one of the service providers. But we'll go ahead and close down, and please be with us tomorrow morning. We have another sneak peek at 9:30 a.m. Central Time, 10:30 Eastern Time on data privacy and security with Alex Corey from Dalton Bingham and also Todd Eastman from Logic Call. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thanks so much.